most grateful and loving pranams at the feet of beloved Sadguru, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. I just want to begin with my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Gopi and Brother Upain for his wonderful hospitality, for inviting me. It's always my greatest honor and privilege to share my faith and inspiration that I found at the feet of our beloved Lord Sai. I never get tired of it. It's the same old stories, so here's a disclaimer. Watch out, you're not getting anything new, for those of you who know. But every time I share them, not only do I go back to the golden days of being with Baba and in his presence, but also the lessons come alive, and there's always something new for me to learn. And I hope that by the end of the day, today and tomorrow, by the way, you're going to see a lot of me. Morning, afternoon, tomorrow. I hope that there is something you can take home. And it's with that humility and prayer to Bhagavan that I stand here as his instrument, and to allow him to share his message through me. Gopi, thank you for those really nice words of introduction. You never get tired of being flattered. Your ego is like, I'm in cloud 9, so I'm waiting for Swami to prick that bubble. I don't know how he's going to do it. But in case you don't know, there's a secret between us Sai students. We praise each other. So I owe Gopi now. The next time I'm going to introduce Gopi sometime, you'll hear a lot of good words about him. But thank you. And thank you for also bringing the fact that I teach. Many places where I go, I get introduced doing everything else other than teaching. And so I tell them, please let them know also that I did teach a few subjects. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm sure all of us share that in our own way. Because spiritual journey is such a personal journey. My path can never be your path. And each one of us, even though we live together in the same house, under the same roof, our paths are different. Our search is different. Our levels of perception are different. And the way we approach Swami, the way we understand Swami, the way we relate to Swami is very, very, very personal. And it can never be universal. That's the beauty of the spiritual path. And that's why, like J. Krishnamurti said, the path is the truth. Truth is a pathless land. We are all unique in our own way. We are all spiritual gurus in our own way because we are finding our own path. And that can be only unique to us. So, I know I'm reminded, for those of you kids who are here and who don't know this story, reminded of this story of the 6 blind men and the elephant. There is an old story said in India when growing up. It's about 6 blind men who wanted to see an elephant. And so a good Samaritan said, you know what, let me take these guys, they've been dying to see an elephant, so let me take them, at least they can't see, but they can at least experience what an elephant is like. And so they all stand around the elephant, and after a while, the good Samaritan goes to them and says, what did you experience? Did you see the elephant? He said, yeah, but what did you mean? One guy said, what did you mean? He said, it's a big animal, it was like a big snake or something. And then the other blind man said, what do you mean snake? This is like a huge pillar, because he was feeling the leg of the elephant. So each one felt different parts of the elephant. Somebody was feeling the tail and said, it's neither a snake nor a pillar, it's like a rope. You guys are imagining. So each one had their own little experience. And Baba is like that, has been like that. Even though there were hundreds of us students who spent many years with him, thousands of devotees would go to him. Everyone would come out with their own unique way to describe Baba. And so this is one blind man standing here and sharing his little experience. And I want you to take that, because it's not that what I say is what Swami is about. No, not at all. It is what I perceived Swami, it's the way I looked at him, the way I experienced him. And it's just a fresh perspective. The beauty of satsangs and the importance of satsangs are that you listen to different perceptions. And then it opens up new avenues of thought in your own heart and mind. And you think, wow, I never thought of it this way. Maybe there's a way to look at it. And it opens up. That's why satsang is one of the most fundamental building blocks of spirituality. Satsang means good company, which means spiritual gatherings, where you listen, you talk, you engage yourself. And it could be a simple bhajan, but then in a bhajan, all of us experience it. There are moments where you just experience a little bit of elevation. You touch something within you, and that stays with you when you go. It could be just one single line in a bhajan, or it could be one bhajan in a 45-minute session, but then that's what stays with you, that motivates you, that's like a source of sustenance. So it's in satsangs like these, we listen to different perceptions, we listen to different paths, and then we go home and ruminate and think over, and then our own unique path opens up before us. I'm very grateful that Bhagavan has allowed me to share my stories with devotees, with brothers and sisters of the Sai family. And it's always a great privilege, because we are talking about a phenomenon. And in the course of today and tomorrow, I just want to place something before you. And I do it very humbly. With great amount of respect that each of you have in Swami, and the faith that you have in Swami, is I would like this journey to be together. And so I want to request you to bring him down from that altar we have placed him, to bring him down from that divine avatar to the Godhead that we have placed him, down to seeing him as a mere human being. It is my belief that if you can see him and accept him as a human, then everything else is only going to be good. It's in that humanness of Swami that I saw his divinity. Not in the materialization, not in those fantastic stories we heard in the ashram. It was in the humanness. It was in his capacity to selflessly give. It was in that, and I want to share those with you. And how it not only inspired me, but inspired all of us. Because think about, we talk of teenagers. I don't have kids, but I hear parents talking about teenagers. Please talk to my teenage boy. Like, listen, I don't have kids, I don't know what to talk to them. I can take them for a hike or a run if you want. But my point is, when a parent is struggling with one teenage kid or two teenagers, whatever, or three, however big the family is, they are trying to teach them, inspire them, inculcate values in them. You see the amount of work that goes. Imagine 400, 500 of this age group in one hostel. It could be, if it's a regular college and a regular dorm, it's different. Nobody cares. Okay, there are just general rules. Okay, come back by this time, go out by this time. What you do inside, what goes on your head, nobody bothers. But this is it's a different experiment Baba started. He said, we want youngsters to come away from the city and not only study but inculcate values, find out what their purpose in life is, find out about divinity. How do you think that even survived this long? It not only survived, it's a great experiment, it's a very successful experiment. How do you think that happened? It's because there was inspiration for the boys. And only one person could inspire, Swami. He inspired us by living every single word he spoke. His thought, his word, and his deed were exactly in unison and harmony. There was never once that he spoke something and did something else, or he thought something and spoke something else. It was always in unison, always in harmony. And that was what inspired me as a youth to take to spirituality, to understand more about divinity. I was born and raised in Bombay. And as my last name is Iyer, it's like a typical South Indian Brahmin. The Iyers, the devotees of Shiva, who look down upon everyone else. Murugan, if those of you don't know, the son of Shiva, was a family deity. And from the time I remember my life, which is pretty much from the time I was born, I guess, was in pujas. So my father excelled in pujas. We had a two-room apartment in Bombay, really small, 9 of us were there. And so the living room becomes a bedroom at night. You have an attic, you bring down the beds, you open it, spread them all and sleep, and then next day morning there's a fight as to who's going to put the bed up. So it's a joint family, 9 of us, my father and his brother, and 5 children, me and my 2 sisters and my 2 cousins. So everything was always a race to the bathroom in the morning, because 7 out of 9 people had to go to college, school or office. So it was hectic. But more than all that was all fun. But more than all that was the pujas. So my father, the kitchen was also the puja room. So right from the bottom of the floor to the top, and all the possible walls, there were only 4 walls in this. So 2 of them had shelves with all the kitchen utensils and all that. The other 2 walls were full of gods. Every single god you can imagine, from the parrot god Sukar to Hanuman to Idamban. Idamban is a demon god. Don't be scared, we're not worshipping demons. I look at some youngsters, they're like, what? You're not taught that in SSC. No. Idamban is how even a demon gets converted to divinity. That is a concept. Hinduism is a very deep concept. It's very deep. If you look at a surface level, you will not even understand what it is. You will think it is awesome. Some crazy guy sat and discovered and made up these gods. But each of them are symbols of the vortexes of energies which were symbolized in the way we can relate to. But thinking of their name and form, slowly you go beyond it. We'll see if we can touch upon that as we go along in the next couple of days. But as a youngster, I had so many questions. Who are these gods? What are these gods? But my parents always said, nobody told us, nobody's going to tell you. Why Putindra? If you know Tamil, why Putindra Chuma? That's all. Shut up and sit down. But I would sit and my father would bring all the yogis and sannyasis home. And so it was amazing. On the one side, these yogis would come. We had, when I was 2 and 3, I vaguely remember, but my mother tells me that I used to sleep off in Swami Satchidananda's lap. This Swami Satchidananda was Shivananda's disciple. He later on ended up sending to Yoga Ashram in Pennsylvania, or Virginia. So, and this was a time in the early 60s where these Shivananda people would come, because of Divine Life Society was just spreading. So they would come and try to spread the word of Divine Life Society. So we had Swami Satchidananda and so many others. Particularly Murugadas, who is a very well-known singer in the South, he used to come and stay with us. And I've literally grown with him, and my mother has grown with him. And even this last year when I went to India, he's 96 now. He said, Sunder, come, here, come, let's sing. He pulled the harmonium, and even with his shaky fingers, he played the harmonium and made me sing. And I sang with him. It was an amazing experience. These gurus told us stories about spirituality, and it was wonderful. But then I looked around, I saw all these gods. It was scary, 3-headed, 4-headed, and all of them had spears. And I was like, wow. The reason why I felt it more was because, on the other hand, which I'm grateful for, my father sent me to a Roman Catholic school, St. Xavier's High School. Now I don't know because it was cheap or what his reason was, but he did tell me later on that why I didn't want to impose upon you what I learned. This is how I knew I was brought up. So, but you had a good opportunities and the school was good, so we sent you. So imagine a kid growing, he comes home and he finds all this, he goes there and he finds it's all about Catholicism, what Christianity, what Christ. There you hear the stories of Jesus, you're nice, but then they tell you all the other religions are false and this and that. I'm like, wow. Then you come home and hear I got in this dichotomy of religions, and I was not able to understand the spirituality and all that. Now with Swami, I'm able to appreciate that religion is just a part that it opens up into spirituality. It's a stepping stone, and everybody needs to find their little diving board. And once you find a diving board, then all you need to use it as a springboard to jump into the pool of spirituality. We all meet there. We may choose different diving boards based on which is suitable for me, which height I want, and which breadth and length I want. But finally, you all dive into the same pool. I didn't know all this then. My breaking point. So I was becoming more and more quote unquote, forgive me for using this word, but fed up with this pujas and religions and rituals, and it was never ending. Believe it or not, in my entire childhood, I probably remember 1 or 2 movies I went with my family. I really didn't go for any films. Otherwise, I look at theatre. My father hardly spoke to me. The only thing he told me was padi. Allah padi. Study well. That's all. Study, study, study. He's a very traditional dad. I don't remember sitting on his lap or he didn't say, son, you're completing your 12th grade, what do you would like to do? You know, he decided you're going to do BCom, you're going to do commerce. I'm an accountant, you do accounts, and then you can get my job in my company. So it was all planned for me. It so happened that by the time I reached a particular age, I was getting fed up with this spirituality. And I wanted to break out. So the rebellion in me. The breaking point came when I had the sacred thread ceremony. You know, all the Iyers, I think all the Brahmins, north and south, they do that. They put a sacred thread around your shoulder. I think it goes this way. And they initiate you into the Gayatri mantra and all that. So you're not given a choice as a 12-year-old, you're into it. Because the initiation of the Gayatri mantra, for us as Sai devotees now, all this sounds so foreign because Swami was the only one who initiated the whole world. He broke a thousands of years old tradition saying, or maybe hundreds of years old, I don't know. I think there was a time when Gayatri was available to everyone, and then the politics of religion took over, and then they started saying only men should hear it, women should not hear it, and only this caste should hear it. But Swami broke that tradition by initiating everyone, thousands of people. He said, Westerners, Indians, black, white, short, tall, rich, poor, girl, boy, it doesn't matter. Everyone has the birthright to pray for enlightenment. What a glorious day that was. I was with Swami that day. But that came much later. But in this traditional thing, what happened is, because it's supposed to be done in secret, and there's no secret with 300 people around you, right? And so what they do is they put a big sheet, they cover you with a white sheet. And so you, your dad, and that pujari sits under that sheet. So before my father came in, the pujari and I were under the sheet. So I didn't like it. It was not a good feeling sitting with this guy. As it is, he's been making me chant those mantras so fast, I had no clue what I was doing. I was pretty nervous. And then, to my horror and amazement, he said, after this, when you go around, people will give you money, give all that to me. My father, just before initiating, give all that to me. Your father's not paying me enough. So I don't even remember how that Gayatri initiation took place finally. Because I was so like, this guy, what is nonsense? He's just doing it for money, and my father's given him the place of God, because he whispers the Gayatri to my father, and my father would whisper it to me. So saying that my father gets it from God, that is a tradition. But this is God. He just wants us. And he clearly said, envelopes, only envelopes I want. Other cash you keep. So, and that's what happened. Anyway, for me, that was the end of that. By the time I was 13, 14, I said, okay, I used to just make fun of pujas and rituals and all that. Then my father got transferred to Haryana, and I just want to pause here saying that, you know, when you think of when you bring your little children to satsang and they sit and listen to bhajan, they will sleep off. But there are seeds that are being sowed, seeds of spirituality sown in them, which never goes waste. And for me, when I look back, I think of that moment because it didn't go waste. Because when I was a child, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the stories of the masters who would come and all that. It was just a brief period of my internal struggle, or turmoil, if you will, of questioning. But it didn't go waste. I think somewhere it comes back to meet you later in life. So even if you bring up your children in SSC, and then they appear to show disinterest, let them find their own, give them space to find their own divinity and spirituality. Let them question everything they learned. It's okay, because if the seeds are sown, it will mature. It will come back in some form or the other. And to me, I think Swami came back, came into my life in that sense. Swami was not welcome in my house. We had not known of Sai Baba, because once you're in the Murugan and all that, you're just going to your temples, you have the the Variyars and all those who are doing the poor and the Katha Kalakshemam, which goes late into the night and all that. And you're coming back, you're too caught up with that. And those days there was no Google, by the way. There was no so nobody could just go Sunder Iyer and type it and check it out. So there's no way unless you read about him. And so we had hardly heard of Swami, and even if we did, I think my parents, it was a closed door. Because Swami was considered as a miracle worker, a Siddha Purusha, somebody whom we don't want. And moreover, he is driving a car, he can't be spiritual. Somehow, spirituality, the way I was raised, is the more poor the guru is, the more spiritual he is. The more ragged and the more famished he is, the more spiritual he is. Oh, he doesn't eat, he must be spiritual. He looks so famished, oh, he must be spiritual. But let me go have lunch and then go have darshan. So we want to be fed and we want to be comfortable. When it comes to the guru, somehow we want them to be, I don't know. Somehow I was raised in these weird ideas. And so Swami was not considered spiritual at all. Avareto is for film stars, rich people. He was just kind of dismissed on. So the door was completely closed. My grandparents, of course, had completely closed the door. And one thing led to the other. My father got transferred to Haryana, which was Rohtak, Haryana, which is about 60 miles or 60 kilometers from Delhi. I was finishing my 12th grade. They said, my gosh, he's from Bombay. Where do we put him in? Delhi is not a great place. He can't go every day 60 kilometers. He needs a college. He needs a place to stay. Where do we go? And so everybody was looking around for where do we put this guy. By then I had already voiced my dreams to the shock and disbelief of my family. I said, I'm going to join the Pune Institute of Film. I had I was realistic. I wanted to be a comedian. I didn't want to be a hero. Look at my height and looks. I said, I can be a comedian because I used to love Mahmood. And I don't know who else, forget it. But I just thought I might make it in the film line. And so I got my parents even worried. Did we have to find a place for him? But there were very few colleges with residence facilities those days. And the ones that were there was such a great demand. Either they demanded very high grades, which was again out of my league, or they were very expensive, which was out of my father's league. So there didn't seem to be a solution inside. When I was living with my uncle then, in my 12th grade, I finished that, and as I was spending the summer, I had heard of one photographer, Sai Datta, who would help me, who had the summer program for youngsters. And he would color black and white pictures. Those days it's called a Fiji color or Fuji color, I'm not sure. Those days the color photographs were very rare. Only the rich and famous could afford. Not everybody could afford color photographs. Even in my generation, if you look back in your childhood pictures, there are very few first of that. And they're all black and white, very few colored ones. So Sai Datta came out with this, he would paint black and white pictures of Swami and render them color. And there was a great demand, obviously. So he wanted help for more people to come and join. So he opened the summer program for youngsters and said they can come and help me and I'll teach them what to do. And so I thought it was a great thing to learn, and so one thing led to the other. I find myself in a studio. And he starts giving me, first of all I see all pictures of Sai Baba, and I didn't know who it was. I just looked and I said, wow, this guy's some fan of somebody. Like I said, it never struck me that he's spiritual. I did see him in an orange robe, but then there was a Mercedes Benz behind that orange robe, so how can he be spiritual, right? Or he was sitting on a big throne. I said, no, I don't know who he is, but it didn't bother. For me, I was more focused on how to paint. But a couple of weeks later, he's going on giving me the same old. I said, I'm tired of painting orange robe, red robe, yellow robe. I want to paint blue skies. So I asked him, who is this person? You're just going on like, only this. So he said, by then, as a youngster, you just go, and I told him all about my ideas of spirituality and this and that. So he said, he's a holy man, he's a guru. I said, oh, okay, then I don't want to know more about it. He said, no, he's your kind of guru. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, he's your kind of guru, he speaks your language, he believes all religion is one. And he believes that within each of us there is God. So that kind of caught my attention. And he said, I'll tell you what, I don't want to influence you. You will make up your mind. I'll give you a book of his, and you read it. And he gave me summer showers in Vrindavan, a series of discourses of Swami. He said, read this, you'll know what he talks about. He didn't give me Man of Miracles or anything like that. And I'm grateful he did, because I wanted stuff, people who spoke stuff. I should tell you, I want gurus who speak stuff, not people who do pujas. So believe it or not, I went that night and I was looking for faults in that book, just to convince myself that this is one more guru. And I was looking for where Baba would say, do this worship on Monday to please Shiva, or do this on Friday to please Devi, or do this on a Thursday to please the Guru. I was looking at those because I was raised like that. I was looking for some puja, some mantra, some quick chant, something. There was nothing. All I found was love is God, God is love. There is only one religion, religion of love. Go out and serve humanity. That's what life is all about. I mean, things which made so much sense that I was like, wow, this is so exactly to what I've been always thinking, always searching for. I knew Swami mentioned stories of Rama, and he always did. He talked about Rama and Krishna, but he always focused not on the stories per se, but he focused on the lessons behind each of these stories. He taught the moral behind these stories. When he spoke about Rama and Bharata, he spoke about how brotherly love, what brotherly love is, what actual sacrifice is, what humility is. When he spoke about Hanuman, he didn't talk about how Hanuman is pleased on which day to please Hanuman and how praying to Hanuman will help you in your life. He just spoke about what bhakti Hanuman had and how we can take that devotion and make it ours. I was like, wow, this is it. I need to know more about him. And then, to my surprise and delight, he said, I know you're looking for a place to stay. You know, Sai Baba is starting a college in Puttaparthi, in ashram. So if you want, you can try that. Guess what? It's going to be free. I said, what? Free? It's going to be free. I knew my father would love that idea. Who won't like that idea? So I wrote him a detailed letter, and of course, by Swami's grace, and I think when the time is right, everything falls into place. Somehow, miraculously things fall into place. Things which you think will never happen will suddenly start happening to you. And you only know, not at that moment, but later on when you look back, you know that this is all orchestrated by a higher power within you that's guiding. Finally divinity is within us. And we are guided by our own higher self. We think it's from outside, and that's okay to think it's from outside, but it is from within. Swami would always say, we are like the musk deer. He would give an example. I don't know if that's a real truth about the musk deer, but then it's quoted in the Vedas and the Puranas about the analogy of the musk deer. Musk is a perfume. It comes from a deer, but the deer is searching for that perfume. I believe he goes around saying, wow, this is great, I want to know where that smell comes from. And he searches the whole forest, not knowing that the smell is, the perfume is coming, the aroma is coming from within him. So that's what we do. I mean, we search all this, we take all these paths and all these gurus and all these teachings. Finally, just like Tulsidas ended, just like Meera ended, all these saints finally they said, Payo ji maine Ram Ratan Dhan payo. I found the gem of Ram within me. And so, when I look back, I know these things are all orchestrated. Divinity comes back, and the ones that we awaken in ourselves as children come back to us to guide us. And therefore, things started falling in place. My father said, absolutely, if that's a place you want to go, go, because he was happy I was not talking of Pune anymore. And I'm sure it's everybody's, every parent's wish, but it was I guess it's still an obsession in India because you're competing with 1 billion people. It wasn't 1 billion then, but it's close to 1.2 now, 1.2 or 1.3 billion people. So graduation and post-graduation is almost like you have to do it. There is nobody celebrates when you do the school grade. Nobody has a, what do you call that? Graduation. Nobody celebrates your graduation. Nobody celebrates your graduation when you do your 12th grade, or even when you graduate and after you finish, my father said, Allah, good, study hard. That's like, wow, he spoke to me 2 more words today. So, it was all about education. So anywhere you get any good education, parents are always ready. And so when he knew, okay, this is some ashram kind of setting, there is no smoking, drinking and all, which is good. so let's send him there. That is how I came into Swami's fold. I didn't know about Swami. In fact, he used me as a door, if you will, that opened up for my entire rest of my family to become Baba devotees. But it was, they had to come to Swami. I think they were so spiritual and so deep in their devotion to God, to Murugan and Shivan, and whatever chosen deity. I think, like he says, all names are mine, all forms are mine. When he says that, I think when he says that, he identifies himself with that supreme intelligence, where really all our forms, all our names are all his, even our names, our forms, we all belong to him. Once he identifies himself with that, then he becomes a Vishnu Swarupa. And so, when my parents' devotion had to find fulfillment, they had to find this master. They had to find this greatest Sadguru who walked the earth. There is no doubt about it. And so it had to happen. It just had to have some excuse, and Swami used me as an excuse to bring them to Swami. But when that was how I came to Swami. I didn't know the idea of prayer other than the mechanical chanting. I didn't know that you could deal with God on one-on-one. You can feel and talk to him and understand him. I didn't know that. I had to find that for myself. My mother could do that with Murugan. Okay, my father could do that with Murugan, I think, but I couldn't, because that was their God. I had to find my own. And for me, I learned how to find that divinity with Swami. My very first experience was admission into this college, and you probably heard this story, but I never get tired of telling this. So that's my turning point, the point which my life took such a turn. I never looked back. I'm grateful to that. So I do my 12th grade. I finished my 12th grade. I go to Puttaparthi to seek admission. I went through the summer course and all that, but I cut that for want of time. It's dangerous to give me a mic and say speak about Swami and just go on and on. My very first experience of one-on-one was seeking admission in Swami's college. Why? Because being the very first year, they didn't have any rigid selection criteria. There wasn't entrance exams that you had to write and nothing. You just go. There was a principal. Principal Narendra was there at that time. Not Narendra, I'm sorry. His name was Sastri. I forget his first name. Principal Sastri. So he was there. All you would do is go to him and say, "Sir, I want admission." What admission? BSc or BCom? BSc is Bachelor's in Science. BCom is Bachelor's in Commerce, or BA, Bachelor's in Arts. So there are 3 programs Swami started the college with. Now I don't know how many are there. I mean, yesterday some of the alumni saying, Sai, you were saying there's nanophysics now. My God, there's things which are state-of-the-art education is going on now. It's amazing how something started selflessly and grow so fast, so quick, and so furiously. But back there, it was like the Ganges has a very small opening. The source of the Ganges is very tiny. If you go to Gomukh, you'll be amazed at, wow, this is where the entire Ganges flows. But that's what it was. And so everything that Swami started as always has very humble, small beginning. Then like the very ashram in Prashanthanaya. Why would somebody start an ashram way away where even roads are not there? But we'll come to that. But so when I sat with Swami, it was, I went to the principal and he said, have you got your grades? I said, I did, but you see your grades. I hesitated to show him the grade because to get admission, Swami had given him strict guidelines. Okay, broad, but strict guidelines. He said, anybody above, because those days it was in percentages, it was in grades. Okay? It was 75%, 60%, and 50%, things like that. So they said anybody above 75% can choose science. Anybody above 60%, around 60% can choose commerce. Anybody above 45% can choose arts. Somehow arts was the last. It was always considered girls will do arts. I don't know why, but anyway, hopefully all that has changed. So my father had already decided I'm going to do commerce. Like I said, he decided I'm an accountant, you do accountant. And I think from the time I was 4 or 5, I was told I'm not good in math and science. Maybe I failed my first math exam. So I was told time and again that math is not for you, science is not for you. And I used to love science, but I was told that science is not for me. So commerce was it. That was it. So I had to choose commerce. And I know youngsters, they will wonder, my gosh, his father was cruel. But no, he wasn't. I loved him, I respected him to the last day of my life. But that's how it was. Life was like that. And I just accepted. They were brought up like that, and parents thought they knew the best for their children, and they did it with all their good intention. He didn't do that to make him, it was not a sadist attitude of my dad at all. He just thought, I know what is good for him. And everything turned out good, so there's nothing really to complain about. I went to this principal with my grades, so I needed 60% and above to get into commerce. My grade was 48%. It's really not something kids should take home. Don't say, Sunder uncle got no grades, why are you yelling at me? That's something I'm not very proud of. But that's how it was, that 12th grade exam. It was really not something to be proud about. And thinking of how admissions are so competitive, even today in colleges in India, you don't get anywhere with 48%. So I showed him the grade. That day I made sure I put nice vibhuti and all to the principal, just told him, just to impress upon him, I'm really a humble Sai devotee. Yeah, I spent quite a few weeks there. Now I knew how to behave like a devotee, which I wasn't. I mean, to be very honest, I was figuring out who Sai Baba is. I saw people trying to touch his feet, pick up the sand under his feet, and I heard stories which are like, wow, what is this? But for me, I couldn't make out. I said, I need to know more about this person. So when I asked this principal I want admission, he said, I'm sorry, your grades won't allow me to give you commerce, but I'll give you bachelor's in arts. I said, oh no, that's not going to work at all. My father is going to yell. But in fact, what he did was when he sent, a week later or along with the grades itself, he sent my return ticket. He said, I know you will not get that. Please come here. Even in the letter, I felt this wrath, in capital letters, I told you so, underlined and all that. So, I knew I'm in trouble. And the last thing I really wanted to go was go back to my home. Because again, school jobs, this and that. And I just wanted to be on my own. I wanted to find my own space. And I found Swami as a breath of fresh air, Swami was a breath of fresh air. He had spirituality, something which I was seeking right from childhood. His teachings made perfect sense to me. The summer course that I attended, I just completely tuned into every word he said. I said, if I want a master, I want like this. It really makes sense. But I wasn't there yet to fall at his feet and worship him. And why are people worshipping him like this? Why are they? I didn't see him in two places. So I said, what do you mean by he's appearing in two places? I've seen him only one, and you're all running after only one person. So I just couldn't, that part of this divine aspect of Swami had not yet set in with me. But I wanted to be there. And Puttaparthi was just love at first sight. I don't know what it was. I remember still when those days it was called a tempo. It's actually a van, but 15-seater van, but they packed 30 people in it. And you're going in, but in spite of all the smell of the van, nothing, but one moment I entered Puttaparthi, I saw the hills and I saw the setup there. It didn't have so many buildings as it has now. It was such a beautiful sight of it. My goodness, I wanted to be here. I just fell in love with the place. And so when this principal said Bachelor's of Arts and my father sent the return ticket, I was completely crestfallen. I was like, this is not happening to me. This is not happening to me. I don't want to do this. So for the first time I said, you know what, why don't I try, when you're desperate, you're clinging at straw. So I said, okay, you know what, with 2 or 3 days left before me go back, so why not just try and pray? To whom? I don't know, everybody's praying to Sai. Oh, I'll try to pray to him. Okay, I felt like a fool, like how can I pray to another human being? How do you know that I'm praying to him? For me it didn't make sense, but I said, I'll try or something, I have to be here. Because I kept bothering this principal so much that he was avoiding me completely now. He see me from somewhere and go off. So I'm not allowed to meet him in the college anymore. I knew that that door was closed. Because I would insist that I want commerce. And he said, if you want, join arts. I remember that what I thought was prayer and all that didn't work, and I was sitting with just a day left. And so I wrote a very long letter to Swami, very angry. I was disappointed with myself, with Swami, with everything. You know, when you're frustrated, you want to blame the whole world around you. And so I blamed everyone around me, and I blamed Swami also. And in that letter I wrote to him that this is a use, people think you're God and this and that, and I thought there was a chance for me here to learn more about divinity and spirituality, but if I have to go back, then that's it, and the door is closed and all that. You take this letter and our relationship is over, this and that. Whatever a teenager could write, I guess. Thank God those emails didn't work those days. You hit send and oh my God, I want it back. It was a letter. And so I wrote a very nasty letter with Swami, and I had it in my hand, and those days there were no tokens or anything. You just go front, you can sit right in the big front line. So I made sure I was well in time, well ahead of time for darshan. I sat right in the front. And there, those days there was a sand, there was an arch. And the ladies would sit on one side, gents would sit on that side, and Swami would pass by. So right on this end of the arch, I was the first guy on the men's side, sitting with the letter. And for me, I was furious with Swami, right? And I wanted to not sneak out saying, oh, I didn't get it. I was like, let me give this to him and look at him and tell him, this is what I think you take it. I still had that Amitabh Bachchan blood in me. Influence of Diwar and Sholay was there very much. So I wanted to tell Swami, look at this, Baba Leo yaar, kya Baba hai? You can't listen to one guy. I'm being very honest here. I think spirituality is built on honesty. And if you don't have faith, you don't have faith. There's nothing to be guilty about. It's just who you are. And unless you accept that and not convince yourself, no, I must be good, because you're feeling guilty, then you're not true to yourself. If you're true to yourself, then the building blocks starts little bit at a time, and that's what happens. As Swami gives an example of that little squirrel also helped Rama build that bridge, I think the inner significance of the story is, even if it's a small stone, it will help in building the bridge that will take you across. So let it be a small stone, doesn't matter. It's a small iota of faith, let that be your building block. Everything doesn't have to be some magnificent miracle, you never know. But for me, I needed that first step that tells me from inside, that inner door has to open from inside. But it was not, and I thought it was all over, so I'm going to tell Swami and walk out. So I'm sitting with the letter, and he comes, and for the first time he came, looked at me, and he said, "Kya hai?" And he's talking to me. I was like, I didn't expect him to talk, because Swami passes, you just take the letter and go. So I didn't expect him to talk. The moment he did that, I knelt up and I said, "Swami, admission." That's all it was in my head. I didn't believe he actually stopped with "Kya hai?" And I said, "Swami, admission." And I heard my father's voice from inside, "Be calm." Make sure you make that clear. It's the only chance. So I said, "Swami, admission, Swami, be calm, admission, Swami, be calm, admission." So Swami said, "Be calm, be calm." And I remember everybody laughing, and I was just like, what? And when he came to this letter, he had his fingers like this. Because it was my very first encounter with Swami. Sorry, I shouldn't have used the word encounter. My very close experience with Swami, I remembered everything that he did. So his fingers was like this. So the envelope was like this. He placed his hand like this. He was going to pick it up. But to me, it was symbolic whether should I cut, because he had said, you cut my relation. If you take this letter, my relation is cut with you. So what should I do with this guy? But he was gracious. And so he said, holding the letter like this, not yet out of my palm. I'm still holding the envelope. He's holding, what's in the letter, what is it about? Because unless Swami initiates a conversation, you can't talk to Swami in darshan. We all know, for those of us who have been Yasha, we know how disciplined that is. And nobody dares break that discipline, because you don't want to be the lovely smiling sevadars, you don't want them to come to you. So Swami was, "Kya hai?" And I said, Swami, admission, be calm. He said, be calm. And before I could understand what was going on, he, across his hands, he looked like this, and he saw the principal, he did some gesture like that, and he walked back. And I was like, oh my gosh, he looked at the principal, he did something. So after darshan, I ran to him, to the principal. I said, did you see? He said, yes, I saw. I said, be calm. Yes, whatever you want, he said. Whatever you want. That was it. After that, I never had to look back. I didn't plan to stay with Swami for 15 years or whatever. I didn't. I didn't even know what I was getting into. But it was one step at a time. You know, it's like the GPS. You don't see the end destination, but you trust the GPS. It says take left, you just take left. You take right, you take right. One step at a time. This was the first step where something within me touched with Swami. And so I was, wow, this is it. There's something about this place. There's something about Swami. And of course, he didn't take the envelope. I came back, I read it, I felt very ashamed. I tore that letter and threw it away. And that's how I got into Swami's college. And one thing led to the other. And I got to know more and more and more and more and more about Swami. And the more I grew to know him, the more I got to know who he is, what he stands for, the more my curiosity, it all started with curiosity. Who is he? What does he do? For me, once I became a student, it's not like my search was over. It became more intense. I wanted to know more about Swami. Because now, I'm seeing 2 or 3 boys in his room, there are others in his room. I'm like, what goes on in Swami's room? Does he have a TV? Does he have a sofa? I mean, if he's sitting on thrones like this outside, how much more comfortable is he inside? I was so curious. It was not out of, it was pure curiosity. It was not out of something, I wanted to prove that he's not, nothing like that. I wanted to know him before completely accepting him. So I used to spend nights just standing below Swami's, because we had the freedom to go right up to the mandir, sit there late nights, and we used to sleep on the sands just outside Swami's bedroom window. And so I used to spend nights sitting and wondering, is this my guru? Where is my teacher? And right from my childhood, especially when these yoga gurus would come and talk and tell a story, I always had this dream of having my own guru. But Swami seemed to be so universal, not one-on-one. So it didn't say, where is my guru now? What am I getting into? And this college, now there's no way out, but where is this? What is going on up there? How do I reach out to him? How do I get closer to him? It seems more and more distant. Even though you're physically close, the idea of knowing him seems to be more further, because now that you know how difficult it is to get in or get an interview, all that seemed to be, wow, where am I even going to get there? How am I even going to get there? All these were questions which were deep in my mind. And Swami sent Indra Devi to the hostel, and not hostel, we were in the dorm. Swami sent her to teach us yoga. But the only lady, he said, ever, I think, to a boys' hostel. And for those of you who don't know Indra Devi, she lived up to 102, 103 years. And she was a yoga teacher, and she learned from Krishnamacharya and Shivananda and all these people. And I don't know if she learned directly from Shivananda, but she was from the Shivananda Yoga School. And she was 72 at the time Swami sent her to our hospital. And Swami said, these boys just eat and sleep, so go teach yoga. That inspired me to the path more. But my father had already, when we were young, we were woken up at 4:30 in the morning, we would shower and then walk 3 kilometers to a Vyayam Shala. And we would do sun salutations, which was about 54 or 108, depending on that guru's mood that morning. We would do, and then come back, have a shower, rush back to school. That was a morning ritual, right from the time I was 5th standard till my 9th grade or 10th grade. Till my father said, oh, now board exam study. So, I was into yoga. I enjoyed in my heart now, I believe that there is previous life connections. I believe that the things which we are inexplicably drawn to whether it is a person or an idea or something or a path, it's because we have left it somewhere, some other time, in some other lifetime. I believe that. But at that point I didn't realize all this. I just found yoga fascinating right from my very childhood, and I continued. And Indra Devi was a key to inspire me even more. I said, when I'm 72, I have to be like that. Because she was amazing, a really role model of how you can treat your body as a temple, and how you can use that and go and build a sanctum life within you that you can carry with you all around, and the deity inside then becomes alive. So for me, that's why yoga for me fascinates me even today. It's because you're dealing with things which you can control. Your body is under your control. Your breath is under your control. Your mind is under your control. Figuratively speaking, I mean, you can say my mind is never under my control, but you can. Who's responsible for it? You, nobody else. So you can start with the body, you know. And I tell people, ask me, do you travel astrally? I said, no, I just learned to scratch my back right now. Because that's the first thing you learn. Actually, this part I can't see, I can only feel. So, okay, this is there, I know. So the faith begins with your body, then you work with the breath, then you get into the realm of the mind, which is otherwise very abstract. And then when you learn to enjoy the harmony between the body, breath and mind, you begin to feel and become aware of the spirit within. That again comes as an experience. It's not a philosophy, it's not a belief. Once that becomes an experience, then your life changes, your perception changes, your attitude, your approach changes to life. Everything becomes, quote unquote, miraculous, which science today calls it science of synchronicity. Synchronicity, I don't know how to say that, but things start happening in your life because you start connecting with the greater intelligence that is within everyone, with every living being. So that is the beauty, and that's how Indra Devi had that. She brought in a lot of spirituality with yoga, and Swami wanted that to be taught to the boys. Of course, we started with 20-25 boys, and it came down to 2 boys within a week. And I'm glad actually, it was just me and another person learning from her, because it was moments I'll never forget. Anyway, for me, with Swami, I wanted to know more about Swami. So, again, when you really, one thing, the reason I share these lessons is, these stories are simply because they taught me great lessons in life. And I'm sure you will all agree with me, because when you listen to these, at the back of your mind, you're probably drawing parallels with your own personal journey. There are moments when you sincerely and deeply yearn for something. It's always answered. It's always answered. Maybe not in your time, maybe not at the rate at which you want it like this. I always want it like this. But it's always answered. And when the answer comes, it's much more than what you wanted. Always much more than what you wanted. It's amazing how that power is within us to yearn. And all we need to do is just yearn. That's what bhakti is about. Bhakti is not about how well I sing a bhajan, or how emotional I become, or how I cry. It's about that inner yearning. Just the yearning to know, the yearning to love, the yearning to understand. That yearning draws events to your life, draws people to your life, draws books to your life, draws films to your life. I don't know how it draws things into your life. And then you look back and you say, wow, look at my life has changed only because of that one yearning. Things start happening in our lives. So my yearning for understanding Swami, the yearning, because when you're in Puttaparthi, people tell you stories which are just mind-boggling. Swami cures somebody of cancer. So once Swami took a man, very huge gentleman, sitting on a wheelchair, and 3 sevadars there's a slope that goes into Swami's the mandir, and so 3 or 4 gentlemen had pushed the wheelchair. And he was somehow, with great difficulty, they took him inside the interview room. And then he came out walking. So I was like, this is not possible. This is just not possible. And Swami came out and said, very casually, he said, 25 years he didn't walk. Poor man. He didn't ask, I only blessed him. So I was like, what? You actually made him. When you see it happening, it's too good for you to believe. We always, when some things happen right in front of us, it's too good. Mother's cooking, yeah, it's too good. I want to eat outside. When something is right in your lap, it's too good to believe, and so for you, it's easy for you to dismiss it. That's why when Swami says, you're God, yeah, right, you are God, Swami. You are also God. No, Swami, you are the avatar. So because it's too good for us to believe that we are divine, so we like to push it back and make it sound very difficult, so we can justify our watching CNN or Bold and Beautiful or whatever. Or Desperate Housewives, I don't know what. The yearning is always answered. The yearning is always answered. And if it's not answered, I always look back and say, let me yearn more. I mean, he used the word yearning, and I'm not using the word asking. I'll come back to that a little later. But the yearning is always answered. And so it just happened that I had no clue how am I going to get into Swami's room. I had no clue how will I get this interview. I didn't know, I mean, you're one among, of course the number of boys were much lesser then, it was about 70, 80 boys, but within a year it doubled. The next batch came, they started the 11th and 12th grades and this and that. Before you realize, you had Sandipan Chatterjee behind you, you had Sanjay Sahani, and just kidding, because I see a lot of alumni here, I'm using names. So you had so much more boys now, so the competition became even more fiercer. And you became more into the background. So that the chance of, logically the mind didn't see a path. It didn't see a path to get closer to Swami, except that occasional word, you're trying to give a letter, Swami picks it up. Other than that, there was nothing else happening. But then, like I said, the universe opens up paths, opportunities. And you're looking for them, then opportunity always comes. And so the hostel was being inaugurated. When we joined, the hostel building was not ready. The college building was not ready. Our first classes were in the Ishwarama High School. I think that's it's a blessing in disguise. Because Swami said that was my first institution. He said that and the mandir will stand thousands of years because they both built in stone. He said they both will stand thousands of years as testimony of what I came from. The first educational institution Swami built in Puttaparthi and his mandir, which is all solid rock, concrete, building blocks, a complete stone. So it was, I think, more symbolic than anything that Swami started our classes in the Ishwaram High School. And it was beautiful because Swami would come and sit in our classes. He was so excited. See, he's like, I saw him many years later too, he becomes like a 5-year-old. It's my project, I want to go and see it. It's my school, I want to go see it. So every day he will come. Almost every day he would come and sit into the class. He'll see how my teacher's teaching. So everybody wants to turn to Swami, he'll say, no, everybody look at the teacher. And he'll go and sit at the back row. And poor teacher, what will he teach? He'll like, Swami, teach. So man, we're talking demand and supply, and I remember Balchandran, one of our economics professor, and he did a whole economics class and Swami was sitting and listening. And we were like, should we turn this way or this way? So they were very nice, there were beautiful moments. There was a moment where one boy had such thick glasses, and that morning he had an exam to write. We had exams that day. So we were about to start the exam and Swami walked in. And of course, how can you write an exam with Swami? Papers are not given yet. But Swami walked in and he came straight to this boy. We didn't know at that time that this boy, his glasses was broken just in that morning or something, that little screw was missing, so he was going to write an exam and he really can't see anything. We call it soda bottle. Soda glasses or soda bottle. It's all old Bombay language, pardon me. But thick glasses, so the boy really couldn't see. And I don't know what level of search and what finding he was, but that, I think there was a turning point from him. And he later on told, I was so frustrated and I was ready to get out right now and go back home because he was not happy. But to his amazement, he's sitting, he's wondering how do I write the exam, and Swami walks in. Swami went straight to him. Hey, soda bottle, give me. Picked up that glasses. He said, what is this? Careless. Then he said, okay. Looked straight, he went and sat behind 10 minutes. Because everybody was waiting, the lecturer could not give the papers because he was like, how can the boy start writing with Swami there? And so waiting in 10 minutes, Swami did something to the glasses, he came back, he said, fixed. See, now you can write your exam, and walked off. One thing is, of course, how did you fix the glass and what did you do? Nobody knew. That was one side. The other side, more touching, was the simplicity of that act. There were no cameras, there were no 5,000 people watching him do this. It's just a simple act of walking. One thing is being divine and knowing something. Okay? The other thing is actually coming out and helping him out, in spite of knowing. He could have said, when somebody said that boy's glass is broken, go get him a new glass. Right? That is also, I could still be telling that story. But it's not the exhibition of omniscience at that point, it is more the love. And so omniscience becomes incidental. Love takes over. So he just came, he knew that boy had that thing. He came to this fixed it, he went back to his car and he went for his morning drive. That's all it was. So there were many such tiny, weeny incidents, but for me, I felt that simplicity that Swami had, that love that he had, was very touching. I wanted to believe in him, but my heart was like, hang on, just wait. I need to know more about him before I completely understand who he is and give myself up to him. So, we were not living in the hostel then. And then, within a year, they started building another hostel, which is about, you see now, about a kilometer away from the mandir. And so that was ready by 1980. And so there was the inauguration of the hostel, which is what Gopi talked about. And so the inauguration came, and so that was our home now. And so we wanted to invite Swami to inaugurate the hostel, and then we move in. It was on December 25th, 1980. And so we boys, what do we do for Swami? He's going to come and see us inaugurate. We've got to have some function around. What do we do? Now, here's a bunch of guys from different cities in India. And there were a few boys from abroad. Youngsters. When you first join Swami's, you're in an ashram. So the ashram is all absolutely very, you see how quiet the ashram is, right? You get up in the morning, our routine is you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you have a shower and everything, you go, the Suprabhatam starts at 4:45 or 5. And then you do the Omkaram and the Suprabhatam and meditation, then you come out and then you do Nagar Sangeetan around the ashram, and then you come back, and for those of them who didn't shower, go back, get ready, go have breakfast, go have darshan, rush to college, come back. So it was a very tight routine. Okay? Now you get coming to the hostel, now you think of a program. What kind of program can youngsters do? And we thought, what can we do? We know Bhangra dance. And then the ashram authority said, what? No dance. The first time we came out with this idea of, see, you know, in the scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures, there is a saying, you probably heard this. I hope I get this right. Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam. You can offer anything to God. Anything. Whether it is a fruit, whether it is a leaf, whatever it is with you, whatever you want to offer, you can offer it. There is no really, traditions and the rituals came much later. Fear was inculcated by institutions. It wasn't the idea of scriptures at all. Whatever you want to offer with love, you offer, it will be accepted. Because you're doing it as an offering. So, I learned that lesson. For me, that was an eye-opener when we came with this idea of dancing. What can you offer to Swami? We know, what do you know? We know Bhangra dance. Because as youngsters, we say, hey, why don't we do Bhangra dance? Bhangra dance, you mean actually play dhol and dance? Like, freak out and yell? It sounded great for us because we really needed to let out steam. After 1.5 years of ashram life. The warden was Nityanand at that time. He was also a student who had come become a warden. So he was on board with it. I said, let's do it. And then what else? And so I said, I've been going to Vyayam Shala in Bombay, and I've learned to jump through ring of fire. Maybe I can do that. And I also know to climb a rope and do yoga on top. It's called Malkham in India, in Maharashtra. So I said, I can do all those. They said, oh, that sounds good. Yoga sounded like, yeah, that's more peaceful. They didn't realize I'm going to do it at 40 feet up in the air. That came later. But yoga sounded good. So they said, okay, ring of fire, oh, that's a risk. But we'll see, we'll try that. And so, slowly this program was put together. If you look at the programs by themselves, there's really, when we discuss what is spirituality, there's nothing spiritual about it. Bhangra dance and gymnastics and all that. But you are doing it for Swami, and therefore the whole thing changes completely. It becomes an offering. And so I had this chance. The reason I was excited was more than the Bhangra dance, which also I was part of, but more I was excited was this yoga on the rope, because I said, at that point, he will look at me, I'll get that one-on-one. Because he had not asked me my name, he had not known me in that sense, the physical sense. But so I wanted that attention. I needed an excuse to get that attention. I didn't find an excuse. Now this seemed to be, wow, if I do yoga on the rope and if he likes it, he's going to know me. He's going to ask for me maybe. Maybe he'll talk to me, So I had that excuse. I found a door open. I was like, wow, I'm going to grab this. So I practiced yoga on the rope, and more exciting was the ring of fire. Somehow convinced the warden that, it's really safe. I do it. I've done it so many times. And he said, okay, let's try this. And so we brought a big ring, and I did. I jumped through it once, and he said, okay, you know what you're doing, fine. And then slowly as the weeks grew by, I told the guys, let's make it smaller. I want to make it really exciting. The idea of offering slowly became all about me. Sometimes we start with the idea of worshipping Swami, and then it becomes like, hey, this is my place, my bhajan place, you can't sit in my place. So it all becomes about who I am, what I want to offer. That's how rituals, I think, this is how you are to worship Shiva. You cannot sit that side. The wife has to sit on this side, not that side. All this kind of ideas come into our head, because it's now about us, not about the offering. So that was another lesson I learned. I learned these things actually as I committed those mistakes. And I don't feel ashamed to share it at all, because I benefited from them. And so the idea of becoming, do in front of Swami, I said, let's make it more exciting, let's make it more fun. So I jumped through one ring, and I said, why not jump through 2 simultaneous rings? I'll be like, wow, thing, right? So I practiced that, and I said, okay, that worked. Why not make it 3? What if I jump through 3 rings? Won't that be something like Swami would now definitely want to know who this guy is? So it was 3 rings a little broader than my shoulder, because I wanted everybody to go like that. And so we had practiced well, and through trial and error, again there was no Discovery Channel or Google to help us. Through trial and error, we learned that you don't dip the rings of diesel. You put diesel or kerosene, but you don't dip them just before you do, because they just burst into a flame and all you see is smoke, and I couldn't even see the rings. So we realized that you put the rags around the ring, then you dip it kerosene much, like 3-4 hours earlier, let them all dry out. So when you light up, there's just a thin ring of fire. Then you can see the ring clearly. So we had all that planned, said practice, and everything. The day came, December 25th, excitement in the air. Chenna Reddy, the Chief Minister, was going to come. Swami invited the public into the hostel quadrangle. So the hostel building is four blocks on all 4 sides, and the center is empty. It's a big quadrangle. So that was where all the action would take place. And so it was all planned. The only thing the warden told me was, I know everything is fine, Sunder, I'm only worried about this fire thing. I don't think Swami will like it. So I haven't had time to check with Swami. Because he was also trying to feel Swami. We didn't know what Swami is going to like. This education experiment was so new for everybody. What will he like, what will he not like? Our first football match we played was in shorts and t-shirts, right? And then these big boys fell up and down and the legs going all over the place. Swami said, in my ashram, no shorts. We don't want this ridiculous circus kind of atmosphere. So we knew that Swami didn't like. So you had to play it by trial and error method. So warden didn't know where to go with this fire thing. He knew Swami liked it, but he was also, because he's a warden, he's responsible, he doesn't want something dangerous to take place. So he told me, if Swami sends word, please don't do it. I said, okay, where will you be, sir? I asked him. He said, I will be with Swami. I said, so we'll see you coming? He said, yeah, I'll come and tell you. I said, okay. And I told my guys, if you see him coming, let's finish it off faster. This is what I mean by how we are so full of what we want to do, that the God who wants it finally says, no, also no, we want it. We Because we are so full of ourselves. It's amazing how we do that. I don't know. For me, after that, I really learned that this is about for whom are you doing it. When he doesn't want it, why are you insisting you want to do it? Then it's no longer an offering. But so the boy said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. We are young guys. We work hard. We don't want somebody to cancel it at the last minute, right? So the yoga on the rope went on beautifully, and every time I climbed up, I did one asana, I looked at Swami and saw him from down, he blessed me. I was very happy. I was like, wow, this is so nice. And I came down and I quickly got ready for the ring of fire. Now, foolish as I was that day, among all these other things that I was doing, I also wore a tight t-shirt. Now, like I was saying, the 1.5 years that we stayed, we had no sports or anything going on. So we were literally living in white shirts and white pants. So suddenly for this program I had to get a t-shirt and it had to be tight because you're dealing with fire. I just looked around, went around asking boys, anybody's got a tight t-shirt? One guy said, I have a polo t-shirt which is tight. Little did I think that was polyester. It didn't even strike me. This is all at the last minute. Oh yeah, this is tight, it fits. So I wore that, I wore a tight jeans because the track pant and shoes and all came much later. So I wore it tight and I said, okay, this fits, I'll do the fire and everything. So I did the yoga, came back, and just as there was some other program in between when that got over, just as we were going to get ready for the fire, because we were waiting for things to darken a little bit. Swami sitting across in the Jula, next to him was the Chief Minister, Chenna Reddy, and then all boys sitting around the quadrangle with devotees, and they were all on the terrace and everywhere. There were devotees all over the place. 5 minutes before I started this, one boy comes to me and said, Sunder, you should thank me. Brother, you forgot something and I have taken care of it. I said, what? He said, you guys forgot to put diesel on that thing. It was all completely dry, so I have just poured and kept ready. So I said, oh my God. I couldn't tell him anything because he's enthusiasm to help. I said, oh my God, okay, forget it. I looked at it, it was all soaking wet. I told the boys, they said, don't worry Sundar, we'll tie some rags. They were called the Gokulam boys, the tough guys. Their duty was to go and milk the cows. Actually, that was part of our job too when we first started, because that didn't continue very long. But boys would go and milk the cows in the morning and help for the ashram and also for the hostel. So that was an amazing experience. All of us did at some part of time. But these boys were strong boys, solid guys. So they were called the Gokulam boys. They said, don't worry man, you just tie some rags around and you won't feel the heat. But nobody realized that the first two boys were holding it, will have to hold it much longer than the last two boys. Each ring had two boys holding it from two sides. So there was 3 pairs boys. The first two boys held, I went and jumped, and there was an applaud or whatever I heard. I looked at Swami, I came, just glanced, then came running back and said, come, quick. I went to the second ring, I jumped, and by the time the first two guys said, Sundar, enough man, enough, 2 rings are enough. I said, no man, come on, just one more ring, let's do it. And as I started coming for the third run, I saw the warden walking towards me. And I knew he had this thing to stop. I knew the way he was coming, and he was trying to indicate. I pretended I didn't see him. That was part of the plan. I told him, please, third ring, come on, let's just do this. I want to set a record, nobody will break 3 rings of fire. So, poor thing, the other 2 boys came, and then they touched the other 2 rings, and so it just lit up, and I could see the 3 rings. I ran before the warden came. I had to finish it so fast, I wasn't thinking clearly. I went and jumped. When I jumped, the first 2 boys thought my feet had cleared, and so they let go because they were waiting for every second. They let go, but my feet had not cleared the ring, so my shoe hit one, and then everybody let go. So all the 3 rings on fire around me, I landed on the floor. So this is all happening very fast. I'm coming, I'm jumping, something happened, and everybody let go, and I'm on the ground with 3 rings of fire. And remember the polyester. So what happens at that time is, I don't know this, when I land, I see the fire around me, and I'm looking up, and all I could see was Swami. He was there, he put his hand, held my hand, pulled me out, and started rubbing the sparks that was catching on. He started, oh Bangaru, I'm here, don't worry. He said. I was stunned. I looked around. There are hundreds of people. All they could do was say, and everybody was paralyzed. The only person who could act was Swami. The only person. Until that time, I heard Swami talking about selfless love. And I heard his words when he said, I have a love of 1,000 mothers. You'll never understand my love. It's beyond you to understand. Just enjoy it. I heard them. I didn't feel them. That day I felt it. Because if you look at him, he's wearing silk robes. Right? That's why I say it's one thing is being omniscient, and the other thing is putting your life at risk just because you love. That's it. At that point, he could have just imagine that, the devotees were watching, some of them were from the US, they told me, and of course boys told me later. When he saw me running towards the third ring, his jula was, he's on the jula, and slowly the boys are swinging him back and forth. He jumps from that, he picks up his rope and starts running towards me. So everybody's eyes are on me, so half of them didn't see Swami, and it was dark. Because all the lights were off, we wanted all the attraction here. So nobody saw Swami walking. So he's walking towards me because he knew something is going to happen. And he had to be there to give his hand to rescue me. See, the spontaneity that Swami had can only come out of selfless love. It cannot come by planning. Because he yearned to love. His yearning was to love. He enjoyed just loving. That's it. It didn't mean that he was all the time with sweet words. Okay, I've had my share of get out of here and all that stuff. I've had my share of, I almost saw my father again through Swami. I've had my share, but I know that all that is out of love. It's just love, 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 nothing else but love. The beauty of that was just so profound. And that was just one incident. There were so many incidents like that. And so many students can say, talk of such incidents. They may be not as flamboyant as this jumping through rings of fire, but then the little acts of love is what made it divine. What touched us most. I was like, wow, why would he risk his life? And why was I so foolish to insist what I was doing? Not only did I put myself in danger, but I put him in danger, knowing that he can go out of his way to save you. And so at the physical level, if he was like that, what more and how much more powerful he is when he identifies himself with the Supreme Being that he is. Then his love knows no boundary. And that's why he's always with us, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not. His Sai is always with us, in us and around us. We just have to open our hearts to accept, and then miracles happen. That was such a profound, touching moment for me that I understood that he's capable of selfless love. It was amazing. And so the next day Swami came and said, where is that fire boy? And Swami, here I am. And for the very first time he asked me my name, and he got to know me, or I got to know him, I don't know how to say that. But that one-on-one was established. It wasn't enough for me, but at least wow, that was a great break. That was something which was just happened overnight for me. And so in all my letters to Swami, I'll draw a small circle with the guy that jumped through on fire. just to let him know that this is the guy. And it stayed for a very long time. That was my signature at the bottom. I didn't trademark it, so I must. And so Swami got to know me personally. I enjoyed that initial one-on-one with Swami. And within 3 or 4 months, one day suddenly out of the blue, he called me for my first interview. He came from darshan, he's walking past, and I thought just like any other regular day, you're sitting and watching Swami, and then suddenly you see, hey, like that, with me. Oh, he's talking to me. He just showed, I said, wow, I'm going inside for the first time into his room. What his room is going to be like, and what my mind was all full of questions, and I can understand the amount of excitement I had when Swami called me for the very first time. And that was an amazing moment of revelation into his divinity. when of course, we went to sat in group interview and Swami was talking something, and then he started picking up people. There are two interview rooms. One is a bigger room and one is a smaller room. Now, the bigger room is only 10 feet by 12 feet. The smaller room is even smaller than that, maybe 7 feet by 8 feet. It's a really small, tiny room with one little window and one chair here and one chair in the interview room. And so, Swami started picking people, smaller groups and families, and take them in an interview room. And I heard about that inner interview room and personal interviews, and I had no clue what it was. Now I was watching, there was one thick red curtain coming going back and forth. Will he call me? Won't he call me? I don't have family, I'm alone. Will he call me? Won't he call me? He did. He did. And I walked for the first time ever. It's so vivid to me in the back of my mind, even as I say this. First time ever that I stood one-on-one, just him and me and nobody else. What do you want? He asked. What do you want? He tried like, which language does this guy speak? Hindi, Telugu, English. I remember he spoke to me in Hindi and Tamil also. I said, Swami, nothing. I don't want anything. I wanted a lot of things, you know, you have this big laundry list, but when you're standing in front of it, completely the mind is blank. What do I ask? How do I even put those things in words? Also, it's your first time, you suddenly don't know what's happening. It's like, wow, this is unbelievable. I don't want anything. No, tell me what you want. He insisted, what do you want? And so then, the first thing that struck me was, I said, my sister Swami. The reason I said my sister is because in the last few months, my parents started writing to me. You know, in the Gita, there are different kinds of devotees. They're all devotees of Swami. There's no higher devotee and lower devotee. I mean, people come and tell me, you are there, I am just beginner. I'm like, this is in your head. You're all with Swami. But there's no higher devotee, lower devotee. But the Gita, you know, why I brought that up is because it was not in that context that the Gita differentiated. It's more as a matter of fact that the Gita points out that there are many reasons which draw you to God. So one is artha. Some people have material losses and then they turn to God for prayer, for peace. So the artha comes to the divine. Artharthi, somebody who is sick, somebody who is ill, wants to understand why this is tormenting them. So that turns them to God. And then that opens the door. It's all an excuse. Life gives an excuse to ignite that spirituality in us. Because that's who we are. We are all perfectly divine, come to enjoy this play of consciousness. It's a big, gigantic leela. And so we need to be reminded. And there are different kinds of reminders. You know, you have a soothing alarm, you have the sharp alarm. And then if both of them don't go, then you have the father's voice. There, So we need different things to awaken us. Artha, Artharthi, Jignyasa, the spiritual seeker is also seeking God. And Jnani, even the Jnani is a devotee. That's beauty. It's a koan, it's a riddle of sorts, which we need to take home and think sometimes. How can a self-realized person be a devotee? Because I think when you realize that you are just a spark of the divine, you realized it. But then you are still a spark of the sun. You are still the ray of the sun, not the sun. You are still the ray. And so, you are still a devotee. So, for me, for my parents, they needed an excuse. And for them, my sister was. By then, I had been writing to them. I did this, jump through rings of fire, Sai Baba saved me. All these letters went back and forth. And so, they started writing back. If Swami's talking to them, ask him about your sister. What am I going to ask? My sister was married for 11 years, had been married then for 11 years, and she wanted to have a baby and she had not conceived. And they had tried whatever they could. On one side, all the medical, whatever that was available at that time, and this is, I'm talking 1979, 80. Whatever was available at that time, they tried. And on the other side, they had seen every single astrologer and Baba and did every single puja and pleased every single planet, which needs to be pleased to make that happen, but nothing worked. Nothing worked, so they were at the wit's end. And traditional families, they don't consider it very favorable if a woman is barren or whatever that was. So she had all these complexes in her head, and my parents were constant, please ask Swami about Purna. Purna was my sister's name. Please ask him about Purna. Now catch me getting in front of boys and saying, Swami, my sister will conceive me. I thought the last thing I want to do is get up and ask Swami about my sister. So I was very polite. I was very polite to them. I said, yeah, we'll see. But in my mind, I said, there's no way I'm going to bring this to Swami. I can't. So it was somewhere in the back of my mind, but at that moment, I think, again, looking back, certain things, when it orchestrates itself, you are only a pawn, you're an instrument. You don't realize at that time. But when you look back, I knew that I had to bring that up with Swami because he was using me as an instrument to convey to my parents that it's time for you guys to come. So I said, my sister. That's all I said. My sister. Your sister. 11 years in Tamil and Hindi mixed, he went so fast. I was like, oh my goodness. What did he say? He said, your sister. 11 years. No child, everybody crying. Your mother, Murga. It was amazing the way he said, the way exactly like my mother would say, Murga, everybody is crying. And he's very quickly, this is all happening, like 2 minutes he finished the whole story. Don't worry, Swami Prasad deta hai. Swami will give prasad, you send it, 8 months, baby boy will be born. Honestly, at that moment when I heard it, I was like, okay. I kept quiet. But by the time I came out, I was like, what is this 8 months? What is this boy? How can it happen so clear and so cut? And I was struggling. I was talking about building blocks of faith. Right? I didn't want any philosophical understanding of what boy meant. What if it's not a boy? Then that's it. What if it's not a? Why couldn't he just say child? I would have been happy. Why be so specific? And he said it so casually, like it's almost. Did it slip out of his mouth? I can share these because this is a Sai family and we understand Swami. But I almost thought it slipped out of his mouth. He didn't mean it. Come on. 8 months, boy. Did he mean boy or child? I hope he meant child. Because what if it's not a boy? All this was going on in my head later on. But at that moment I was like, I was just stunned. All these things happened at the same time. I was stunned at the fact that Swami showed his omniscience. This is it, he knows it, he knows what's going on. How did he know my mother was Muruga devotee? There is no way he could have known it. And it was just so beautifully done. We'll come to that in a little bit. Then he told me, Tumko kya mangta hai? What do you want? Okay, that is for your sister, finish that and just before going on to me, so what do you want? Then by then I had cooled down a little. I said, Swami, I want to be in your room. I don't know how I said it. I don't know why I said it. But I am glad I said it. I am so glad I said it. I said, Swami, I want to be in your room. Acha, come from tomorrow. So simple. What if I had not asked? Sometimes I think, what if I had not asked? What if I had thought, how can I ask Swami? Who am I to ask Swami? When Swami says, you are divine and divinity is your birthright, you demand it and you will get God. You demand of God. That is your divinity, you have to demand it. And to me, that moment always reminds me, don't hesitate to put forth your prayer. When a chance comes, this is what I want. Swami, I want to be here. He says, come from tomorrow. I was so happy. He says, oh Swami, thank you. I hugged him. He said, you're spoiling my hair. Because what else can I do? I was so happy. I didn't know how to express, And then he pushed me and said, He adjusted his hair. And then he walked out into the other room and I followed thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in Swami's room. Where do I go? Where do I start? What do you mean come tomorrow? All that is going in my head. But then when I come out of the room, then he picked up a couple of more people, I think, or he finished. I think he went straight to the windowsill and he picked up a basket. In the bigger interview room, there's a big window and there's a windowsill. And so there is a basket with full of vibhuti packets in it. And so Swami picks it up and usually gives from that to everybody who's sitting there. And you have seen Swami bring that basket out and distribute devotees in the line and all that. So he picked up the vibhuti and started distributing to everybody. And I was like, oh, okay, but my sister, wait. He told me, he said, give prasad to my sister. So I'm waiting for that prasad to come. And so Swami looked at me and he gave a handful of packets and he moved. And I said, Swami, what? Swami, my sister's prasad. I gave you, send this. And he went down. And that moment when Swami said, send this, I said, this is not going to work here. This is not going to work. It's from that same basket. By then I had seen Swami, by then it was about a year or so, a little over a year, I had seen Swami materialize vibhuti and chain and all that. So when Swami, like this fantastic revelation about my sister, normally Swami Prasad Deta, means I was coming out seeing, I'm going to see the first materialization close quarter. Like, I always wanted to see how does he do it or what. And it's a young mind, it was curious. And so I was, and also because it's a medical problem, 11 years she's there and something has to go. These are how we complicate our own thinking. Idea how God's answer should be. We build it on, the drama is built in our head. So I thought Swami is obviously going to create vibhuti or something as prasad and tell me to pack and send. That makes sense for me, okay? That's like a miraculous solution to a problem. But this he's picking up from baskets and thinking everybody else didn't want a baby. I was just staring at this and looking at her. He went, kept the basket, returned to me. He said, doubting Thomas, doubting Thomas. I knew he caught me red-handed. Maybe it was just on my face, like, what? So Swami said, send this to your sister. She has more faith than you. You'll work for her. Send it. I said, okay, Swami. But my desire for a close materialization kind of went down. But then to my surprise, Swami said, Undu, and he waved his hand, right? I was sitting in the interview, right above my head. He waved his hand, and when he closed, there was a silver medallion, which had Swami's face on one side and Om on the other side. He said, wear it. This is for you. And he said a beautiful thing, from today onwards, I will be your Sarathi. Your Sarathi. So, that was my second, one of the most profound, when I began accepting. My first namaskar then was of acceptance. I bowed of sheerly out of, oh my gosh. Because when a year and a half ago, when I was 17, my father had come to Bombay and all that, and there was we went to South for my birthday, and first it was Shashti. I'm born in Durgan's time, whatever, Kanda Shashti or whatever that time. So they said, come, let us go to this temple. I said, on my birthday, I like to do better things. They said, no. My father, of course, decided we are going to Kanda Shashti, the beginning of the festival, we had to go there. So we went there, and anyway, I'll make that story really short. We went and on that massive crowd of sweaty bodies and smelly armpits, sorry for being so gross, but my father dragged me right to the Sanctum Sanctorum where one priest was they call it Avesham, or they call it, when priests or devotees of Murugan get into a kind of a trance, a divine trance, like the shaman masters of the South America. And in that trance, they divine things. They talk something to somebody or give something to somebody, and people think it's a prasadam, and they accept it. So my father heard that something is going on. He said, come, let us go, you'll get your blessings on your birthday. So I just followed him right up to this priest. And this priest was just giving everybody. He turned to me and he said, Enna, he's dancing and he's holding camphor in his hand. And it's burning camphor on his naked palm. And that caught my attention. I was like, I should try this somewhere. Because that is like, wow, how does he do that? How does he do that? And it doesn't burn him, obviously. He's in and he's got a brass pot with coconut and mango leaves, you know how it is. And he's dancing to the rhythm. He's got anklets on his ankles, and he's dancing to Kavadi Atam. And arovara, arovara, shouting and all that high frenzy, high intense moment. So, and so he asked, Enna Varnam, and he's looking at Enna Varnam. I don't know if it was out of audacity. I'm writing this, and that's why I'm thinking about what was going on in my mind. But I think it was less audacity and more of what I always wanted. I said, I want God. He said, Bhagavan Manam. He stopped dancing. I thought I said something wrong. Then he said, Varvar, Varvar, Sarathi, Varvar. So he used the word Sarathi. And when Swami said, I am a Sarathi, I can't believe. The aura of divinity that surrounds Swami is so powerful that you only end up feeling grateful. So grateful having known him, grateful having accepted him as your Guru, for allowing him to accept us, allowing us to accept him as our Guru, to be in the fold of Sai. It's our good fortune. It's the best thing that happened in our lives. It doesn't matter whether somebody was close to Swami or not. It doesn't matter who got how many interviews and how many watches and how many rings. And really all that doesn't matter. Like I said, those are the dramas and things we create in our mind. If you thought I was close to Swami, I could have sat and thought how somebody else was close to Swami. And that person could be thinking how somebody else in 20 years ago was even more closer to Swami. So where does that end? What is the ultimate proximity that we are craving to Swami? Is oneness. So that's never going to satisfy whether you spend 3 months in Swami's room or you and Swami are alone in a room for 10 years together. Still the craving will be there. Why? Because that oneness is an experience that has to come from within. And physical proximity or physical distance has very little to do with it. It's nothing. Swami will tell us so often, you are like toads around a lotus. Frogs in a lotus. Frogs. Usually use the word frog. There are frogs around the lotus, sitting and croaking. Devotees come, take my nectar. They are the bees, they come take the nectar and go. You all are all croaking around the lotus. And sometimes we felt like that. Because you are so caught up in the physicality of Swami that you tend to love him physically, you get closer to him physically and all that, but then you lose the magnanimity of who he is. There are moments like that. Things appear beautiful when there is a distance. When you get closer and closer, you get caught up in the nitty-gritties of things. But I don't regret being close to Swami at all. I enjoyed every moment. No, let me take that back. I'm grateful for every moment, though I didn't enjoy every moment. I saw aspects of Swami's divinity in a human form. And for me, that was my building block, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit now and then maybe, and definitely touch upon it in the afternoon, because it's crucial for all of us to understand, especially those who didn't know Swami or those who didn't have that proximity. I think it's my duty and my privilege, honestly, to share who he was internally, because I had so many questions, and I know there could be others who could have similar questions. And if it's in my mind, why can't I share it? And so, but before I go there, I always forget what happened to my sister. And Maya is not there to show me the eyes like that. Because I always forget that my sister's story. And people say, you forgot what happened to your sister. So, 8 months later, so I sent this envelope to my sister, and with a detailed letter, what happened and all that. And later on, of course, she tells me how that the envelope with prasadam, it was a registered post. You know, those days used to send by registered post, acknowledgement card attached, staple. Swami used to sign many of those acknowledgement cards himself those days. It was amazing. I think whoever received them, I hope they preserved it. But anyway, the registered post went to my sister that morning when she had got up in the morning very depressed. She didn't know all this was going to happen, right? No, it comes by post, everything's conveyed by post those days. So she gets up in the morning, she hears Sai Baba's Nagar Sankirtan going all night. And so then she went to the prayer in the morning and she was talking mentally to Swami, saying, Sai Baba, you are really God. If my brother is with you and all, why don't you hear my prayers? That very same morning, 3 hours later, she gets that. So for her, that's why I said timing is so perfect. time, she said, the first time I spoke to Sai Baba, I just said, I've prayed to so many gods, nothing has worked. At least, if there is something, my brother's writing so many things about you and all that, can you hear my prayer? So that interview, I look back at that interview and him telling me, what do you want? He just wants me to get that word sister so he can start off. He wanted that. And he knew that when I did prasad, it's like amazing orchestration of events when faith meets grace and miracles happen. So 8 months later, I did get a letter. My sister, and of course, I got the letter a month or two later that she conceived, and 8 months later, I got the letter that she had a baby boy. And everything was exactly as he had predicted. So that story really had a happy ending. And I didn't have to philosophize anything. For me, it was very crucial. Those were building blocks. I wanted his work to mean something. It always did. Always did. So, the next day morning I went and sat early at 5 o'clock. I saw there were 3 other boys at that time in Swami's room. And many times I used to ask them, hey, what do you guys do, man? Nothing, it's okay. And the more secret they are, the more my curiosity was spread. What do you mean nothing? What do you do the whole day? Tell me something. And so I knew they would go up at 4:45 or 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30. So I was really up and ready. I could barely sleep at night. I went in the morning with a small letter in my hand and I stood just outside Swami's door, the interview room door. So my warden used to go every morning. So he looked at me and said, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. I said, Swami asked me to come into what? I said, yeah, Swami gave me an interview yesterday. He said, yeah, I know that. He said, yeah, I asked him and he said, you can come. Are you sure? He said, here's the letter, can you give it to Swami? And so he said, okay. So he knew I won't be lying. So he went and gave the letter to Swami and I was keeping my fingers crossed. And then the door opened, he came out and he said, yeah, come inside. Swami should call you upstairs. Upstairs. So it was a 1.5 year of deep yearning and prayer that I want to know what's going on. I want to get closer to Swami. I want to understand. I want to have that personal guru. Where is my personal guru? And so I climbed those little small circular stairs. When I was going up Upin's stair, the little circle, I was thinking, wow, this is like Swami's room. I'm going up to a small room. Of course, it's a much bigger, more luxurious room here. Thank you, Upin. But I valued every step I was taking. It was absolutely quiet. I went back and I showed my face to Swami, and he called me, and I touched his feet, and Swami said, be disciplined. I said, yes, Swami. Don't talk too much. I said, no, Swami. I said, go. That was, and as I went out, I just had a quick cursory glance of what the room looked like. And what I saw, and of course later on I had a lot of occasions to be there, my first impressions were shocking. Shocking at how barren the room was and how there was just one single sofa, straight back sofa, not a recliner. I would have, if I was an avatar, use a recliner. Straight back sofa sitting with there is a waste paper basket on one side and one side pile of letters. And Swami was sitting there. And I saw there was just a ceiling fan in the room, 200-watt bulbs lighting up the room. And everybody else was standing. And it was always like that. Everybody stood around Swami. Nobody sat, except when Colonel Jogara would come upstairs, heaving and panting, poor thing. He was a heavy-set man, but he would climb the staircase and come up. And Swami would say, Papa, get him a glass of water or put a chair for him, then we'll open up a folding chair for him to sit. Otherwise, everybody always stood in front of Swami. It was amazing to see how single-handedly, over the years I saw how he ran institutions. Single-handedly. He broke all principles of management, if you will. Because in management, as you learn it, you delegate for better organization. You delegate and all that. This was all single-handedly. The delegation would be always from one It was one person handling everything, which the management frowns upon. They say no organization can succeed like that because you reach after a point you can't handle too much. But there's one person, 8th grader, drop out from school, proved that you can, if you really have the will. So everybody would stand. There wasn't anything like private secretary to Swami or somebody would remind him of his schedules. There was nothing like that. There was nothing. It was all spontaneous. It was all based on the spirit. It was all completely based on Swami's will. And whatever he demanded, whatever he wanted to be done, it was done on the spot. And if he would initiate a conversation, people would talk. Even if it was a registrar, if it was a vice chancellor, if it was the secretary of the ashram, Mr. Chiranjeevi Rao, Mr. Kutum Rao, whoever was there, they would all go and just wait. And so if Swami is reading a letter or something, they just wait. Sometimes Swami will just sit and stare between two people's head into the wall. They'll wait. There'll be sometimes complete silence upstairs. Nobody will be talking, yet there'll be 4 people waiting and looking at Swami. And Swami will be just looking somewhere like this, or he'll pick up a letter to read. Unless he says, Em Samacharam, what's news? Then they'll have so much to tell. They'll have important things to tell, but they will not interrupt Swami's space. They will not come into Swami's space. The amount of respect that everyone had was, first of all, something which was like, wow. I never could grasp that, how he commanded that respect right to the very much, the innermost circle, if you will. Even Radhakrishna, who was like Satyajit at that time, one personal attendant who actually was with Swami all 24 hours and looked after Swami's personal needs. And only when he was not, and Swami would send him out to see his parents or something, he did pick one of the 4 of us to take care of that. And I had very rare such chances, which I treasure. But even he would not speak to Swami unless Swami spoke to him. So Swami was, I saw Swami living in solitude. I saw that he was alone, in one sense of the term, in the sense of humanness. He was alone. In that humanness, it's impractical to do that. Because only you have to talk, nobody talks to you. So where is his need for appreciation, somebody, it was almost as if everybody is worshipping him and nobody was loving him. It was all respect all around. But little did I know at that time, and it's very difficult for me to even comprehend now, that at a different level he was enjoying this love of devotees. And that was something I learned from Swami is, you want to be loved, begin loving. You want to be loved, begin loving. You be the first to love, and love will come back to you tenfold times. And so that is what, the simplicity of his life was what amazed me. And I'll come to that probably in the next section. I don't want to start something and leave it halfway. I just want to end this with saying how when we come to Baba's fold, when we come into spirituality, we have to be ready to empty our cup. I learned to empty my cup one at a time. If I had held on, what I mean is the yearning the desire to be open-minded, to learn more, to accept things that as your life teaches you, rather than this is how God should be, or this is how Guru should be, why is he not like this? Because that's how I started off. They're not supposed to drive Mercedes-Benz, be in a Mercedes-Benz, why is he in a Mercedes-Benz? I couldn't have gone further. But I opened my mind, I said, forget that for now, I can't answer that, but I can relate to his teachings. So I took what helped me, and then everything else started making sense. It really, the way I understood Swami later, he really didn't matter to him. He could care less what car he was driving. Really, he was the same Sai when he went in the bullock cart and sang the Pandari bhajans, right, when he was young. That is what I saw the sense of detachment from Swami. It was like nothing. You want to worship me, you worship me. You want to put me on a throne, fine, do it. It doesn't really. I've come to teach, I've come to do my work, I will do my work. And so that is the purification that we go through in this path of devotion. Path of devotion is a tricky path. It seems simple. You say, I'm just a humble devotee, that's fine. But being humble is very tough. Because you have to empty what I hold on to. I have to empty my preconditioned beliefs and limitations. because I'm beginning to surrender to Swami. So when you begin to surrender, you're actually giving up what you believe in. And his word becomes more and more important. We'll touch upon that later. But that once that quality comes in, then you become more and more pure. And I want, the reason why I bring that is because it reminds me of a song, and I want to end this with a song. It's a beautiful song in Hindi. It says, "Maili chadar od ke kaise dwar tumhare aun." How can I come to in your presence wearing a dirty cloak? Now, the dirty cloak, in my opinion here, is not about the good and bad and the ethics and, oh, I didn't pay taxes, and oh, Swami, forgive me. Not that kind of thing. That is also there. That's more societal, that's more ethical. In spirituality, the sin is the sin of separation. The fact that I'm seeing myself separate from Swami is my dirt. This is the first dirt I put on my clothes. The fact that I'm thinking I am limited, I am far away from him, is the dirt on my clothes. Because we are divided. So how can I come in your presence as somebody separate from you? Once I come in your presence, it should be just, I think it was Akbar. They would come and you would kneel down to pray, and there was a beggar next to him. The beggar started laughing at Akbar. So why are you laughing? The story goes, and the beggar says, "Oh no, I just was amazed how another beggar also came and started asking." He said, "I'm not a beggar, I'm a king. You are begging, right?" So he said, "Are you not begging?" He said, "No, I'm not begging. I'm just sitting in the presence." So at that moment, the emperor found that this apparently so-called beggar was much higher than him who had along with us. So when you come in Swami's presence, it's always like that. And my father was like that. It's amazing to see what I thought my father was ritualistic and into all this Hinduism. When he would sit in Swami's presence, when he and he did many times, all he will do is come and sit in front of Swami, and his eyes will just continuously stream. He can't speak a word to Swami. Swami, he'll be crying. I can't speak to you, Swami said. He never spoke to Swami as well as I saw it. He would only sit and try. But before the interview, he'll say, "I'd ask this Swami, I'd ask that to Swami." But when he sits there, he'll forget everything. I can't speak. Because that presence is so overwhelming. I thought that was the beauty of his devotion. And that took him to amazing. And Swami gave him everything he wanted. Everything. But at that moment, he didn't even have to ask. His innermost desire was already fulfilled. So there's a point we talk about it. I said, "I want to be in your room," I had to ask, but later on there was lessons he taught me that you don't ask anymore. That kindergarten stage is over. You learn to believe that power knows even before you ask your innermost desire. And therefore it becomes futile in the presence to even ask. So when you're in the presence, you're just enjoying the presence. And in that enjoyment, in that communion with God, everything that you desire just gets fulfilled the way it is meant to be. Higher power takes over. So I just want to sing a paragraph of the song, and this because it's one of my favorite songs. And I thought when I jumped through the ring of fire and got to Swami, he kind of cleansed me in some divine way. I'd like to believe that. I am not a very, I call myself a C-grade singer, but I've managed to learn to sing, so bear with my, I like to present these songs more as in the context of the meaning that's behind it, more than anything else. You can play it, Tanda. Thank you so much. The meaning, for those of you who don't know Hindi, is "Maili chadar od ke kaise dwar tumhare aun." How can I wear a dirty cloak and come in your presence? Hey Pavan Parameshwar mere, oh my Parameshwar, my divine being, my God, Ishwar, my Lord, You are so pure. How in that purity, how can I bring my cloak? You sent me into this world, and I have not even understood why I came. I'm still just trying to figure out what my purpose of life is. So how can I? And in this, you gave me such a beautiful, clean cloak. You remember how we came into this world? We had no fear, we had no shame. Look at these little children. Gopi's daughter Ananya was engaging me in a nice, serious conversation this morning. I had no clue what she was talking. She couldn't care less. She was going on with me. I said, what is this? Look at that. No fear. No feeling like, oh, how am I talking? What do you think? How will I talk? No such thing. But what happened to that? How did we add on those little blots and spotches on this clean cloak that we were given? I always refer to this analogy of, and ask a question, and please don't raise your hands. And the question is, has anyone seen an ugly child? Or an ugly pet? No. But then when you look at a beauty contest or a beauty pageant or whatever, and you find out what are the rules and regulations to be beautiful, they talk of, okay, first you got to learn how to walk. This is how you walk. And I look at a 1.5, 2-year-old, how this most beautiful thing on earth walks. Because we learn from the best and the most beautiful, right? The most beautiful is a child. You look how they walk. They fall every 2 steps. They are barely able, their feet are all over the place. Okay, so let's cross that out. How do you talk? How do you communicate? What kind of tone in the voice should there be? I look at a baby, ba boo boo. I'm like, okay, that's crossed. Mannerisms. I look at the baby, he or she is drooling all the time. Okay, dress. Look at the baby, oversized diaper. The baby has broken every single rule that amounts to what beauty as we know today, as grown-ups know today. And yet, the baby is the most beautiful. Because at that age, you see the spirit simply expressing itself. And the body is a pure channel of joy, exhilaration. They're not afraid of anything. They're not ashamed of anything. They're not guilty of anything. It's heartbreaking when I see parents, and you have to, don't get me wrong, I'm just talking about the philosophy of it. It's heartbreaking when we have to teach to say sorry to a child who doesn't even know what sorry means. So, when we grow up, we learn these things, and our clothes becomes dirtier and dirtier. But then how do we go back to that innocence? What has happened in our life? That we lost that innocence, that fearlessness, that freedom from guilt, that instant expression, the spontaneity of joy. What happened to it? Why have we lost it? That's something we need to ask ourselves and see if we can go back to that childhood, that innocence. मैली चादर ओढ़ के कैसे द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं, द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माऊं, 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 मन ही मन शर्माऊं। मैली चादर ओढ़ के कैसे द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं, मैली चादर ओढ़ के कैसे द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माऊं, मैली चादर distance, but I know, in my heart I know Swami is with us, and he is the one who energizes these satsangs. And we have invoked him. Let's keep him in our hearts today as we spend the rest of the day and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful satsang that Swami is so graciously allowed to happen. Thank you, and Sairam. We chant the Brahmarpanam. Brahmarpanam Brahmave Brahmagyo Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tera Brahmakarma Samadhina Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praniyam Devamashrita Pranapahasamayukta Prachamirnam Chaturvidam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hello everybody, the lunch is served and we have 2 lines, so let's start the lunch, and we need volunteers to help us with serving. And we'll be back at, we'll start our Jeopardy game at 1 p.m. So be back on time. Sairam.